What's up, Kiss fans? This is what I call the intermission episode, because I have finally finished doing the first 4 episodes for the original members. The music you're listening to right now is a solo album Peter Criss put out in the 90s. It's called Criss Cat #1. Good CD. I really enjoy liking it. I just have it on because I just feel like listening to it. It wasn't really. It's really hard to find. It's really rare. It's out there. Don't get me wrong, but it's not on a major label. That's one of the reasons why it's hard to find. The label is called TNT. There are no MP3s for it, and if you find it in a music store, you probably want and you're in the Philadelphia area, you probably want the South Street and found it. Otherwise, the best place to find this CD is Amazon or eBay, and I highly recommend it. You know, as you can see, here's Peter with his half his face painted and the other half not. Here's a picture of his band. If you can see the picture clear enough, you know, there's Peter with his hair a little white, and you know that Peter was going gray in the 70s, but here he is with like blonde. Well, first he dyed his hair blonde, and then he went a little darker brown. But if you see the guy next to him, he has a mohawk, so you can tell this was made in the 90s. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I did the first 4 original member episodes, and this past Friday I did the Gene Simmons episode, and I highly do not recommend anybody watch it, because I did a really horrible job at it, because I just really don't find Gene Simmons very interesting. I never have. It's probably because he exploits himself the most, and I find the ones you don't know much about the most interesting. You know, I guess that's why I find Vinnie Vincent so interesting, because he's so mysterious, and yeah. Out of the original 4, I find Peter Criss the most interesting, because he doesn't exploit himself too much. And lately I've been finding Mark St. John quite interesting, because there isn't much about him published at all. But I don't know. Like Gene lately has become more of a public figure than he is a musician. I mean, something I didn't mention in his episode is that later on in some of these later Kiss albums in the late 80s, he had the lead guitarist playing his bass lines. He had Mark St. John playing the bass lines, and on Animalized, Bruce Kulick doing them on Carnival of Souls, maybe Revenge, I'm not sure, but anyway, basically, the reason I made this intermission episode is because we're gonna be talking about some very controversial members. Of course, the most controversial member, Vinnie Vincent, you know, and he is my favorite subject. You know, that's going to be a long episode, but it's going to be I'm going to have a lot of fun with that one. But basically, I'm more or less speaking on behalf of Mark St. John and Eric Carr, because they are no longer with us. And with social media these days, there's a lot of people, average people just like you and me, you know, saying whatever, you know. and sometimes they're facts, and sometimes they're rumors. You don't hear much about Mark St. John because of his short tenure with the band, but when it comes to Eric Carr, yeah, I mean, people, there's a lot of he said, she said. It's like, did he get fired? Did the health insurance cover it? Cover it. His hospital stay. Did Kiss's health insurance cover Eric's hospital stay? I don't know the facts, and I'm kind of guilty of this myself because I was watching an episode of Three Sides of the Coin, and the guest name was David Snowman. It was episode 167, if you want to watch it. And he explains that Eric Carr was fired. Whether he was going to recover from his sickness or not. Let me explain one thing. When you work in a business and you become ill, it's an employer's responsibility that the business keeps running, to make a profit, and that the business keeps running the way it needs to. And when an employee becomes terminally ill and they can no longer perform their duties, they need to be replaced. And in my opinion, I think that's just basically what it came down to, was that Eric Carr was no longer able to perform his duties and needed to be replaced. And Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley had to go to the hospital and break the bad news to him. And that was very unfortunate. Another source I heard this from was on a podcast called the Geek Decimal Podcast with their keyboard player Gary Corbett. He played keyboards on Crazy Nights and I believe Hot in the Shade. Yes, he said that Eric got through his chemo session and they were going to have a party, and Paul and Gene were going to fire him the next day, and they didn't go to the party, and being that Bruce Kulick, practically his best friend at the time, were told by his employers, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, not to attend the party himself. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not. You know what I mean? This is coming from Gary Corbett. Sounds like a reliable source, but I know, like I said, I never read Gene's book. I don't find it very interesting. I did rent his book from the library once, and I just kind of perused through it. In fact, I kind of just like went in the back of the book and looked up the subject like Vinnie Vincent or The Elder or Kiss Meets the Fan in the Park, and then went to that page to read about that. I don't know. I just never really found him very interesting. Like I said, it's because he's too much of a public figure. It's like he's almost like one of the Kardashians. Almost, he may as well be a Kardashian. And I mean, I've seen pictures of them. I mean, they are hot chicks, but you know, if one of them walked through the door right now, I wouldn't know who the hell it is. My opinion is, I think Paul and Jean took care of Eric. So, but you can believe whatever you want to believe. But like I said, if you want to know where I got this information from, is one is Three Sides of the Coin, episode 167, with I wrote his name down, David Snowman. He was a he started fan clubs. He started out small time with Circus Magazine, and then became a little more big time. He did a fan club for Kiss, the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, Ace Frehley. I believe he did one for Peter Criss. He did one for Nelson, actually, and for some reason that went to court. Funny story he tells where he got a phone call from whoever Kiss's manager was at the time, and he tells David that Paul Stanley just fell out of his chair, and David's all happy because he's saying, "Wow, Paul must have fallen out of his chair because of the happy review that I gave him." He's like, "No, it's because you're doing an official Vinnie Vincent fan group." So anyway, and like I said, the other one is Decibel Geek Podcast with Gary Corbett. He plays synthesizer on Crazy Nights and I believe Hot in the Shade. They sound like reliable sources, but I don't know if they're facts or not. So, you know, and after I saw that episode of Three Sides of the Coin, I had posted on a Facebook page. It's called Real Fans Love All Kiss Eras, and I posted that Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons fired every member of Kiss one way or another except for Ace Frehley and Tommy Thayer. The reason why Ace Frehley and Tommy Thayer had never been fired was because Ace quit both times, and Tommy Thayer is still with the band. Peter Criss was the first one that was fired as a member of the band. Still a 25% owner until he was bought out in 1987. Next one was Vinnie Vincent. Then Mark St. John. Unfortunately, they had to fire Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer. Even though Eric Singer is in the band now, they had to fire him temporarily because they had to bring the reunion tour, which is another rumor I'm going to get to. There were some people on the group that were quite upset about that. They're saying, "What do you mean Eric Carr got fired from the band?" First of all, it's not published in any of their books. Paul and Gene aren't going to publish that, because it would be bad publicity on their part. So, but it would surprise me if Peter or Ace would publish that, but it's not in their books either. So, so there was this other time I was on a group, and Well, before I get to that, the best source of information, if you want to hear anything about Eric Carr, the best source of information is to go to a podcast where his sister speaks, and her name is Loretta Caravello, which was Eric Carr's real name, Paul Caravello. So she speaks. There's a lot of questions whether or not Kiss's health insurance covered Eric's hospital stay. I'm not sure. She won't talk about that. That's one thing she will not talk about, which is something that I also want to get to. And this is a little funny. Now, I was on this one page, this one fan page, and I'm not going to mention the person's name because I don't want to slander him. He seems like a pretty decent guy. It's just his story sounds a little far-fetched. There is, I have heard from many sources that before Eric got sick, he was not happy being in the band. So, I mentioned that, and what I thought I had heard on a podcast with Loretta Chris was that Paul and Gene didn't visit Eric in the hospital. And, well, I was actually wrong about that. I found out later that I was wrong about that they did visit him, because that's where they had to give him the bad news. And I actually think I was confused with, I had Eric Carr confused with Peter Criss, because Gene, Paul, or Ace never visited Peter while he was in the hospital getting his breast cancer treatment. He received a postcard from Ace or something like that, but that was about it. But I don't know, this guy posts that Eric was not happy during the Animalize session, and another rumor I heard was that Vinnie Vincent quit the band, and I did hear that from one public figure. It just so happens to be that one public figure was Vinnie himself. So I don't know. Vinny's known for telling some white lies, so I don't know. You do the math. I pretty much believe he was fired. I think Gene, Paul had more to do with that than Gene did. I think if for some reason the partnership was 51-49 in Gene's favor, Vinny would have been in the band for a little while longer. How much longer, I don't know. But there's rumors going around saying that Vinny was supposed to be on. There was potential for Vinny to be on Animalize. And this guy I spoke to said, once again, Vinny named the album. And what was going to be the title track, there was going to be a song called Animalize, which ended up becoming Animal on the Vinnie Vincent Invasion album. And being that this person I heard this from is not a public figure, just somebody that's on the same Facebook group I'm on, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's until I hear the facts from a public figure that I feel is reliable, it's still a rumor. But he brings some interesting things up, which could be true and may not be. During the Animalize session, he says, well, like I said, we all know Eric was a little unhappy before before he got sick. And I'd just gotten off the phone with a good friend of mine who knows a lot of facts, has met members of the band. Our friend has met, I think everybody in that band, all 10 official members, even Vinny. Well, I don't know if he may not have met Mark St. John, but no, that's a small catch there. He had mentioned that Eric had not been happy since 1987, but this other guy I talked to said he hasn't been happy since 1984, and threatened to leave the band after they fired Vinny, and said he was going to go join the band with Vinny. Now, when you have a job and you're in a private room with your coworkers, it's a lot of times where you and your coworker, you're going to talk about your boss, and that is exactly what Gene and Paul were to Eric and Vinny. They were their bosses. And let's take another thing into perspective here. Eric and Vinny were the first two members, well, the only two members actually, what do I mean first two? Only two members to replace original members. All the other replacement members replaced replacement members. So that's a bond that Eric and Vinny have. So behind closed doors, you don't know what Eric and Vinny were talking about. But if there's any truth to that, I wonder if that would have meant Eric and Vinny were going to start a band together, or if Eric was going to be the drummer on The Invasion instead of Bobby Rock. I just got off that, I just watched that podcast on Three Sides of Coin again before I recorded this, just to make sure, I got my shit straight. And he doesn't mention anything like that. And in fact, he talks about some drummers that Vinny was trying out. So I don't know. Eric Carr was not one of those names. So I don't know. You do the math there. So we go to the last days of Eric Carr. The last days of Eric Carr. Pretty much days before he died. Like I said, I was wrong about something. I said that only Bruce and Ace visited him in the hospital, but I found that differently than Paul and Gene did. And he mentions that Vinnie Vincent told this guy himself that Ace was going to smash Paul's head through the wall in the hospital. Of course, at the time, I believed that Paul and Gene never visited Eric. But he backs my story up and says, first he says yes, that according to Bruce Kulick and Gary Corbett, Ace and Bruce were the only two to visit Eric in the hospital. So first he backs my story up and then says that Ace and Paul were simultaneously in the hospital at the same time, and Ace was going to smash Paul's head through the wall. So at first he's telling me that Paul never visited him in the hospital, how would Paul have been there for Ace to smash his head through the wall? And then he says, this is a personal conversation he had from Vinnie Vincent. Do I believe this guy knew Vinnie Vincent personally? It's possible. I'm not saying he's making that up. He even sent me a message explaining that, you know, it's something about like his wife knew Vinnie's wife or something like that. I forget exactly what he told me, but so at first, you know, Eric's supposed to join a band with Vinnie, and then tells me that before Eric died, he was no longer employed with Kiss and was hired by Ace Frehley. So if he was no longer a part of Kiss, I guess unless Eric's Cobra carried over, wouldn't that make it Ace Frehley's responsibility to, you know, Ace Frehley Incorporated, whatever company, what was he under, Megaforce Records, to cover Eric's hospital visit? I'm not saying this whole story is made up or anything like that, but it just sounds very far-fetched. Sort of like, you know, when you're in high school and there's that, you know, pass it down the line, you know, little Susie brings in cupcakes for her birthday, and by the end of the day, you hear the little Billy's blowing the school janitor for crack money for his mom, you know. Who knows? But the point I'm trying to make is, if you're gonna post any statements about Eric Carr or Mark St. John, or even if you're not a Kiss fan, if you're gonna post a statement concerning a celebrity that has passed away, you should put your source. You should document your sources, which is what I should have done. And that's, I mean, I just, you know, wrote this down on the back of an envelope. But I mean, you know, I didn't go. You know, I don't know where to find this information. You know, you know what I mean. It's just like, you know, I'm not Wikipedia, and I don't have all my sources, you know, with dates and everything like that. But I mean, if you should at least explain where you heard these things. So. You know, us as the viewers, you know, us as the people on Facebook, you know, hearing this information, can go to these podcasts, can get on these web pages, find these books, you know, buy these DVDs, so we can so we can find out, you know, if there's any truth behind this, because we don't know who you are. You know what I mean? You know, you're just an average person on Facebook. You know, we don't know if you're telling the truth or not, or it's a very good possibility you might think you're telling the truth, just like I did. Just like I did on that Facebook group, Real Fans Love All Kiss Airs. I mean, there was this one meathead football player on there. He got all up my ass. I don't really care for this guy too much, but either way, I mean, he was right. Well, actually, now that I've done a little bit more research, now it seems like he's wrong. And unfortunately, under Under unfortunate circumstances, yes, Eric Carr had to be terminated. But like I said, I don't know the facts, so you know, you can take my word for it, or you can just not care at all, or if you if what you find if what I'm saying, if you find it interesting what I'm saying, look it up yourself. I told you, you know, I gave you some I gave you my sources. The best source of information about Eric Carr is his any podcast with his sister Loretta Caravello. She will not talk about whether or not Kiss's health insurance you know, covered his hospital stay. My opinion is yes, it did. I don't know why Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons would be like, oh Jesus, man, what are we gonna do now? Oh geez, Blue Cross is gonna drop us. Yeah. I don't think they're worried about that, and I can't see Blue Cross being like, oh Jesus Christ, it's bad enough we gotta cover Paul Stanley's visits to his psychiatrist, and then there was the guy with the hand, and now this. No, insurance companies need clients, and these are clients that they need. These guys are millionaires. They do, you know, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, or Aetna, whatever. They're not going to want to drop an entity like that, you know. I mean, but this is my guess. What I am not saying are facts, because I don't know if what I'm reading are facts or not. Like none of these books, you know, none of these books, you know, make any statements like that. But hey, you know, I know what I heard, and I know what I believe, and I have my opinions. So be a little, just saying, be a little respectful towards celebrities that are passed away, because they're not alive to defend themselves. They're not alive to back themselves up. Vinnie Vincent's still alive. If he doesn't want to come out and defend himself, that's his choice. Eric Carr, on the other hand, Mark St. John, they're not with us anymore. So, please, if you have anything to, any statements to make about Mark St. John or Eric Carr, I would greatly appreciate it if you would document your sources, or at least tell us where you heard it, or at least say, this is something I heard, but I'm not sure if it's the truth. You know, say something. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, you know, yeah, Vinnie Vincent. Vinnie Vincent told me this. You know, I don't know. I don't know. That's just not good enough for me. But I just wanted to get that out. I'm really excited about the next 6 episodes I'm going to do, because these are the replacement members, and I find the replacement members a little more interesting. Next episode is going to be about Eric Carr, and I'm not gonna call this episode number 7. You know what I mean? This is damn. What the hell have I called this again? The intervention. the intermission episode, because it's between the original members and the replacement members. So, you know, I got some, yeah, Eric Carr is my favorite drummer. He is my favorite drummer of all time. Not just my favorite Kiss drummer, not just my favorite drummer in the heavy metal industry. My favorite drummer. He is, and I can't say that about any other Kiss member. Because my favorite guitarist is Jimi Hendrix. Yes, Ace and Vinny are in my top 5, but my favorite guitarist is Hendrix. Gene's definitely not my favorite bassist, but again, I don't critique bass. I don't critique bass players. But if I have to say I have a favorite bass player, I gotta go with Cliff Burton. Singers, is a 3-way tie between Paul Stanley, Jeff Buckley, and Rufus Wainwright. So I guess you can say that, yeah, Paul. Okay, Paul is my favorite singer, but he's tied with 2 other guys. Eric is not. Then I got the Vinnie Vincent. The one I'm looking forward to the most is the Vinnie Vincent episode, and that's going to be a really long episode because I got a lot to say about Vinnie Vincent, and Vinnie Vincent is a lot of fun to talk about, no matter what you think about him. This is going to be fun, you know, and I think that's why they talk about him a lot on 3 sides of the coin. I think Vinnie Vincent equals ratings. That's what I think. Yeah, he's not on TV. He's not on ABC News, but in Kiss social media, he's everybody's talking about him, except for, of course, Kiss's official homepage, where the only thing is you're gonna get on Vinnie Vincent is the Lick It Up album, and you're not even gonna see his whole body. You're not even gonna see his whole head. You're just gonna see his face, and you're gonna hear all about that in the Vinnie Vincent episode. And I got a little bit to say about Mark St. John. Mark St. John is the hardest one to get information out of. I mean, you look him up. I was trying to look him up on Amazon to see if he had any solo records out. I probably type in Mark St. John, and they're showing me. They're trying to sell me a poster of a priest lighting a candle. Yeah. He's a little funny. He's a little funny to look up because of his name, the St. John part. And Bruce Kulick, you know, I got a lot of good things to say about him. Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer, I don't know too much about, but I'll do my best. Man, but please do not watch that. If you want to watch it, go ahead. If you the best part about watching the Gene Simmons episode is me looking like an idiot. But other than that, it's long. It's boring. It's funny at first, but it's boring. And I'm not just saying that because of the negative media around him right now, but I just don't recommend wasting your time. I did a bad job at it. Yeah, I graded myself on it, and I gave myself a D. All right, see you next time for the Eric Carr episode. Take care.